Hello and welcome to the Knowledge Base Analytics suite from Synthetix. In this video, I shall show you some of the basic functions and reports the solution provides. Firstly, let's look at how to access the analytics. Now, depending on which solutions you have from Synthetix, you may well appear in one of these pages when you log in. If you have the permissions, you can access the metrics by pressing this button here. When accessing the Analytics dashboard, you will be presented with a summary page of analytics for your Synthetix solutions. You'll notice at the top here that there are three toggles that enable you to filter exactly which kind of analytics you need to view. For example, it could be that you have a different brand where you wish to analyze. These are often reflected by the views of your solution. You may have a different type of solution you want to analyze. Here we can choose between the Intelligent Virtual Assistant, also known as a chatbot, or an FAQ part of the external knowledge. You can also choose the time frame within which you would like to analyze. As you can see here, we have a real-time stats, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to look at the last 7 days, so we get some data. As I mentioned before, this first page is a summary page for analytics for the solutions that you have available. You can choose which analytics you would like to display on this page by clicking this pin toggle. You can then go ahead and change the different analytics that you would like to see on this summary page. Whilst you are using the Analytics suite, there is some help and support available for you. By clicking the Support tab here, it brings up a short menu from which you can choose some help. Firstly, you can go through the training. There are some various training videos here, so let's go ahead and pick Metrics. This can then tell you some summaries of what I'm showing you here in the video and give you some help as you use the solution. You can also toggle on some hints and tips. As you can see, by pressing that button, you'll find some question marks appearing around various parts of the report. By pressing that question mark will take you directly to a relevant page within an internal help knowledge base in order to help you use and get the most out of your analytics system. I'm going to go ahead and keep those question marks toggled on. If you wish to ask a question that isn't related to a specific part of the analytics, you can go directly and access the help knowledge base straight away there. You can then use the search algorithm to find some help whilst using the Analytics suite. You will notice on the right here a menu where you can access metrics for the different Synthetix solutions. Only the solutions activated in your knowledge suite shall be visible to you. So you can see here there's the access to the FAQ self-service metrics, the internal knowledge base metrics, and the live chat metrics. The last button is to download and build custom reports, which will be covered later on in the video. For now, I'm going to show you the FAQ self-service analytics. Now, I'm going to extend the date range here for the last 30 days to ensure that we've got plenty of data that you can see. And you simply click this icon to access. So here we are in the external knowledge metrics. Now, notice at the top that the toggles have remained, and they're actually blocking a little bit of text there. That's simply because they float on top of the page and remain permanent. You can very simply fix that by closing down this side panel here. Now, before we go into the reports themselves, I just wanted to highlight a couple of extra pieces here. So as you can see, the question marks for access to the knowledge base help are still available, but there's another icon here. That could be pressed if you need to download the raw data in two different formats, either in a CSV format or a JSON format if you wish to utilize an external third-party analytics software. You can also see here the menu for the different reports within this part of the analytics suite. Now you may wish to change the order of these, and it's simply a case of dragging and dropping from the little icon here. That will then change the order in which you see the articles. So, as I've made top articles the first report to be shown, let's have a look at that now. So it shows exactly as it says, the top articles that have been looked at within this part of the knowledge base, this part being the FAQ. As you can see here, the articles themselves are listed in order of how many times they've been viewed. That's plotted in this chart above, where you can change the time frame with this slider here to focus on different times within the reported range. You can also add these different top read articles by simply clicking on this button here that corresponds to the specific article that's been viewed. You can see then in a comparative way who's been looking at what article and when. The next report is visitors. So you can see here that there's been two different types of visitors that are plotted on this graph: new visitors and returning visitors. Then we come on to interactions. An interaction is when a user has clicked through and opened an article. Again, it might be worth refreshing your memory that if you're not sure what a specific term actually refers to, it may well be worth clicking on the knowledge base, where you can actually see here a definition of exactly what you're looking at. This plots exactly when the interactions happened in a heat map kind of style, so you can see exactly when you've been busy with interactions within the knowledge base. Now, an interaction is different to a search. Now, in this report, there's not been very many searches, but this records exactly how many times people have typed into that search bar to find some help within the knowledge base. You can see here that there are actually three different definitions of different types of searches. The first is a resolved query, which is when a user has typed in a search, has been offered various articles, and one of the top 3 articles offered has been clicked. Optimizable results are when a user has conducted a search, been offered a variety of articles to help them, and they've clicked through on an article that wasn't in the top 3 articles offered. And lastly, no results is when somebody conducts a search and doesn't click through to any articles. This is plotted in the bar graph there, and actually is time-stamped here within date ranges in order to see exactly when these issues occurred. They are then listed, the actual searches, and how many times they've been clicked through. Then we come on to escalations. Escalations record the number of times a user has clicked through to a live chat support from an article with a live chat trigger existing within it. Again, here is a graph that plots such activity, and here's an individual timestamp of exactly when that happened. At the end, as usual, you see the article from which that escalation has occurred. A trigger is simply an access point for a user to access the knowledge base. So this report shows when those triggers were offered and how many times a user has hit those triggers and accessed the knowledge base. As usual, we have a slidable graph here which can focus in on a certain time frame, and then we have some more details of where those triggers existed. On to location, one of the most simple parts of the report. This simply tells you exactly where in the world people are accessing the knowledge base. And down to top categories. This is very simple as well. Within the knowledge article and the knowledge architecture, you will have categories. This report simply tells you which of those categories have been accessed the most. And like the other report, you can highlight different categories to be plotted on the graph above. Feedback. This report analyses the feedback that you've had from the knowledge base. It can ascertain whether a feedback was positive or negative, and you can filter the date range from that. Below is exactly when those comments and those feedbacks came back into the solution, and you can see here the feedback submitted and the comments that were left. All of those comments would be accessible. And lastly, in the feedback part of the report, you can see there it's split out exactly what the feedback questions were and how people have responded. You can see here the articles that have elicited those feedbacks. Lastly, for the external knowledge part of the reporting, are the devices section. This clearly tells you what devices your users are accessing your knowledge base from. So now let's have a look at the internal knowledge metrics. As you can see, this will all be quite familiar with you. Again, you can move the different categories and different types of analytics here. Let's go through them now with you. So the first one is the operator's activity. Very similar to the last operator's activity that we looked at here. It will tell you what the agents have used the knowledge and how many agents have logged in. And again, with a lot of our reports, you can see here exactly when those statistics occurred. This gives you an idea of how many people were suspended and available at the time. An operator can switch their status to suspended for various reasons. And this gives you an idea of exactly when they were available. You have an operator's summary of all of the operators who have accessed the knowledge base. In this case, there's only 3 because it's our demo site. But with yourselves, you'll see all of the operators, how many searches they've conducted, how many interactions they've had with the knowledge base, and the time that they've been online. You can filter to try and find each individual agent by using this box here and typing in their name. This will also seem familiar to you. Although there's not been much activity in this particular instance, this is where the top articles will be shown to you as you analyse the solution. As you can see here, there are only 3 that's been looked at in this time frame, but for yourselves, you will then be able to see how many times they've been hit, what percentage has been looked at compared to all of the other articles. And again, just as previous charts, you can plot the different questions on the chart above. Another familiar report here is top categories. Just as the external knowledge, the top categories that your agents and employees have been looking at and accessing in the internal knowledge base will be listed here. Search results. Just as the external knowledge, you can see here the search results are filtered into 3 different categories: resolved queries, optimizable queries, and no results. Again, if you need a refresher on what those terms mean, feel free to press the question mark button in the relevant part of the analytics. As you can see here, as I'm sure you're getting familiar with by now, it strips it out into the individual days where these particular searches occurred. And at the end here, you can see the individual searches as they've been typed and the result of that subsequent search. As it was with the external knowledge base metrics, you also have article stats for the internal knowledge base as well. Again, a familiar picture here. You can do exactly the same kind of thing with the filtering to find specific articles and the stats that are surrounding that particular article. Something that is different from the external knowledge base metrics is the team statistics. This is where you can analyze how your team members have been searching and using the knowledge base. You can search for operators in this box. You can switch out the different type of application within the Synthetix architecture. You can change a date range here. And then once you've found an operator, you can drill into their statistics and find out some individual facts about their activity within the Synthetix knowledge base. The next part of the analytics covers the live chat. Straight away, you'll see something slightly different. There's a paused report right at the very top, and as you can see, this is chat capacity. The reason for this being paused is that you have a historical time frame in this filter here. If you were to change that for today, that would give you a live overview of what's happening in your call center with regards to your chat activity as it stands right now. We're going to switch back to the last historical 30 days of data, so there's some data for us to look at with the rest of the analytics. So the next report in the live chat analytics is the operator's summary. As you can see here, there's only been 3 operators taking live chats within this time frame. This would obviously reflect how many is in your organization. You can filter, search for an individual agent, or filter by availabilities. And here's a list of the operators that have been active within that time frame and some various statistics regarding the use of the live chat with those agents. The next report is the chat activity. This gives you an analysis of what's happened with the chats that have come into your contact center. So it'll tell you how many have been completed. A completed chat is when an operator has gone through the wrap-up process at the end of a chat. An abandoned chat is a chat that has started but the operator hasn't gone through that process. And a missed chat is exactly that, a chat that's been requested and hasn't been picked up by anybody. Here you will find a table of data with some summaries and details of the activities of your agents within the time frame specified. This table below shows a comparison of when agents have been online and when they've taken chats and when that chat has been delivered. Had any chats been missed, these would have been indicated here with a red line, so you can analyze the availability of agents compared to when chats have not been answered. In this section, you can see the top skills. As with other Synthetix graphs, you can toggle on and off different skills, different aspects, so you can analyze them comparatively in the graph above. This table will be familiar to you. Again, this is analyzing the feedback that you've had from your chat experiences with your agents and customers. It will analyze the positive answers from the feedback given by customers, average answers, and negative answers. Again, you'll find these broken down into dates in the table below. And in this report, you have a couple of extra aspects to it. So you'll have there a summary of the feedback that's been submitted by your customers, and actually a detailed breakdown of what that feedback actually referred to. So it'll highlight the closing questions within your chat experience with your customers and give you a synopsis of the feedback given within that environment. So now we can move on to location. As with the external knowledge base solution, this is pretty self-explanatory. This tells you where in the world people are conducting live chats with you. This report will be different and new to you. So this is to do with poking activity. Your agents have the ability to poke your customers if they've not responded in a given time. And from that poke, there are certain outcomes. One outcome is that the customer continued the chat. One outcome is that the customer timed out and the chat was ended. Another outcome is that the customer declined the poke. And the last outcome is that the customer cancelled the chat on the basis of the poke. This is all analysed here in this chart. And then the details of that activity is listed below. Here's another familiar report, triggers. Just as with the external knowledge-based triggers, this tells you when a live chat trigger has been offered to a customer and how many times they've been hit. And then at the bottom here is some more detailed synopsis of exactly which triggers have been hit and when. Lastly are your devices. It might be helpful for you to analyze what kind of devices your customers are conducting live chats with you. Here's an analysis of exactly that. So desktop, different types of operating systems and different types of browsers are all analysed in that activity. Lastly, for this video, I'm going to show you how to generate a custom report. By simply clicking on this icon here and then clicking on Generate New Report, it'll give you an option to build a custom report. Once you come through to this page, you need to decide which aspect of the Synthetix solution you'd like to build the report about. In this instance, we're going to look at the knowledge base, the external knowledge base. Just click Continue. The first thing you need to do is select a date and a date range from which you want to make the report. Let's have a look at the last 30 days. You then press Continue. This then asks you various parameters to set from which you can build your report. So that can be the type of application that you're reporting on, the category, let's say we're going to look at food here, and the triggers that have been accessed in these searches. We're going to keep that at all. So you can then download various different data contents, and this will all be different according to your own knowledge base. You simply press Continue. You'll then come through to this summary page where you must title your report. You can then generate the report. There's a confirmation that that's been done. You can then go back and view that report as it's being generated. Once that's been generated, that would appear in this list here. You can then download and analyse at your leisure. That concludes the tour of Synthetix Analytics Suite. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.